In the news for March 22nd, 2018. And of course, it's actually been a pretty couple quiet news days, so couldn't find anything really all that serious in the news. So hey, actually that's a good thing. We had the bomber, he blew himself up, and of course, in good Unabomber fashion, he unibombed himself. That's what we called the Austin bomber back in the day for you kids. So anyway, let's see. Moving on to astrology in the news. Yogic wisdom of the day. All great changes are preceded by chaos, according to the great Deepak Chopra. So we'll see how this one turns out. Yeah, it's been a very interesting couple of years, but hey, if I get some time, I'm going to do some more synastry of Donald Trump and the chart of the United States. When it comes to conjunctions, Donald Trump's chart has 5 conjunctions with the United States natal chart, and that is almost unheard of. So, moving on, Joe Biden finna whoop Trump. Yep, they're gonna have this big old. I guess he threatened to kick his ass if he saw him grabbing girls at the high school or something. And so Sam the Eagle strikes again, because I affectionately call Joe Biden Sam the Eagle. Except Sam the Eagle is a little bit more restrained than Biden, and Biden is actually a lot like Trump. They're kind of like bizarro polar opposites of each other. Like they're the same but they're different, because like they have the same kind of demeanor, but of course one is a conservative and the other one is of course is a diehard progressive. But anyway, looking at Joe Biden's chart, he has the Venus and Sun conjunct in the sign of Scorpio, and then we actually do have a birth time for him, so this is conjunct his ascendant. Amorous man, to say the least, but then he's got a retrograde Saturn in his 7th house, which probably puts a little bit of the damper on the relationship. So for him, he probably is a very sexual man. I don't really know how else to put it, especially with Venus and Sun in Scorpio. This guy, I guess if he wasn't Catholic, he would probably be a prostitute. But he's got a couple of other things that kind of put some of this in check. Like he has a retrograde Jupiter here exalted in the sign of Cancer. And the interesting thing is, if you take a look at his Jupiter, it's also Vargotama. And also, too, if you look at his chart, he's in his Jupiter dasha. So Jupiter, this is why I put the dashas in the chart, because whenever somebody's in a particular dasha, that planet and its transits have the most influence. And if you take a look, this is transiting through Joe Biden's 12th house. So this is kind of like a time of him reorienting himself. And so, also too, this probably, I don't want to predict death or anything like that, but Jupiter in the 12th house can be a little bit difficult for health issues too. So you're going to see that too with the boss, because he's having a lot of serious health issues right now. Moving on, Rand Paul does not like the new budget deal, and neither do I. It's a crappy omnibus budget bill because for some reason we don't know how to do appropriations anymore in the United States of America. And of course, now he has to mow his lawn in one of these things, because of course he was tackled by one of his neighbors who decided to kick his ass for some reason. I don't know if we ever figured that out, but of course, if that happened to me, and of course he has a big lawn, I would get in one of these things and I would be totally protected until they went crazy and tipped it. Then you'd really be in trouble. It's like, oh, my protections become a sarcophagus. Anyway, so Rand Paul, interesting chart now. Don't have a birth time for Rand Paul, but if we use his moon as the ascendant, the one thing that I find very fascinating about Rand Paul, speaking about dashas, is his Mercury dasha right here. This is in 2022 when he flips over to his Mercury dasha. Right now he's in his Saturn dasha, and his Saturn is actually pretty well placed. It's placed right here in the sign of Capricorn. And actually, he's going to be going through a second Saturn return here in a couple of years, right? This is also conjunct K2 and Mercury. And the interesting thing about this too is this summer, Mars is going to be conjunct to Saturn along with the south node of the moon. And this is going to be going retrograde. So keep an eye on Rand Paul, because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in his life during this summer. I wouldn't be surprised if he probably got into some budget battles or some sort of controversy. Let's see, Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius in his 10th house, not a bad placement. Venus, just like Biden is Venus is in Scorpio. Actually, these two almost have their Venuses at the same conjunction, so I bet they probably get along. Anyway, Mahmoud Abbas is taken to the hospital, and of course, this is the poisonings continue from the Olive Garden, because they have one in the West Bank. And this is a throwback to my joke about the Russian spy. So, I'm funny. Taking a look at Mr. Abbas's chart. Now, this is a very interesting thing about him. This doesn't look very good for him because his Jupiter is in the 12th house, so we don't have a birth time. But if we use the moon as the ascendant, his natal Jupiter is in the 12th house. And if you're not aware, Jupiter just went retrograde at this very degree. And also, too, if you take a look at his chart, I looked at this earlier, he's in his Jupiter-Venus dasha. And Venus rules the 7th house, which isn't necessarily the house of death, but that's where this places Jupiter, which is the 12th house. So I think Mr. Abbas might be in serious trouble. I don't think he's going to make it too much longer. So I guess you could count that a prediction. I think Mr. Abbas probably will not survive the year. So we'll see what happens. His planetary placements aren't that good for him. If he can make it with Jupiter going back into the sign of Scorpio, crossing this moon, then he'll be okay. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to end up very well for him. So anyway, it's just kind of the timing of sickness and stuff like that. So let's always end on a happy note. Goodbye, Mr. Abbas. So that is all I had for today. Of course, if you want to contact me or if you have any ideas for shows, go ahead and contact me on one of the links below, and I will see you tomorrow.